My son has cerebral palsy and epilepsy. He's 4.
When I lost my job, I lost my health insurance too.
My insurance company wouldn't fully cover me when I got sick.
My father-in-law walks with a limp because he didn't have health care.
My husband's job covered us until he was laid off.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for health care reform.
All right, well, our next guest has been interested in getting health care reform passed in these United States since the Carter years. No, really, he puts it in his new book. It's been his calling since then, from qualifying as a doctor to serving 12 years as governor of Vermont to working to cure the ills of the Democratic Party as head of the DNC after 2004. Howard Dean has always believed we could do better as a nation. Now he's taken a new role as chair of the Progressive Book Club. Maybe he'll have us reading better, too. Very glad to have you with us, Howard.
Thanks
what a
for having
pleasure.
me on. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. I should say you come off incredibly well in the book that I wrote, Blue Grit. I'm a big fan.
Oh,
so
good.
I'm glad
that's even better. Then I better go out and buy the book in a hurry, right? If I'd known that, I would have gotten to get you to sign it for me.
Let's talk about healthcare. You've been working on this forever. It's exciting. There seems like there's progress.
You know, we're 60 years behind the rest of the developed world, and we don't have a universal health care program. There's no excuse not to have a universal health care program, and now it's driving our jobs out of overseas. Finally, it caught up with us, and we've got to fix it, and Obama is the right guy to fix it.
There was movement yesterday in the Senate and the House. The House is going into markup today. All looks good. Public say they want change, and then you wake up in the morning, and in New York, you know, one of the Murdoch rags, New York Post, front page, sick joke. Successful New Yorkers would pay 57% mega tax under Obamacare. How do we deal with this stuff?
Well, you have to understand that the news corporation makes the news up most of the time. I mean, it's sort of like the Jon Stewart of the right, except it's not as funny as Jon Stewart, of course, nor as bright. They just make stuff up. I mean, it's a propaganda organization, not a news organization. So I wouldn't. Why? The only reason people buy the New York Post is to get a laugh out of it.
Well, except for, as you commented in your book, since the Carter years, we've seen one effort at major reform after another derailed by exactly this kind of right attack.
It is true. The right wing always attacks at the weak point, which is the genius of Obama's health care plan. The genius of Obama's plan is not that it's a perfect plan or anything like that. It's not. There's no perfect plan. The genius is, if you like what you have, you can keep it. You're not going to force any American to do anything different. What you're going to do is give them an option. And the public loves it. 70%, 72% of the American people would like to have the option that Obama gives them to sign up for either a public plan like Medicare or for what they have. 50% of Republicans would like to have the Obama option. So the insurance companies and the news corporation and all these anti-groups are in trouble because you've solved the one problem that always was the Achilles heel of every healthcare reform package, which was, wait a minute, I don't like the healthcare system, it's too expensive, but I like my doctor and I like the kind of care I get. Now you've solved that problem. If you like what you have, you can keep it.
So the question of choice, what about the question of cost? You've got headlines everywhere. It's a $1 trillion package. We got it wrong in the estimates. I mean, most of the media had the estimates wrong. We don't know exactly what the cost's going to be this time. $1 trillion, I think, is about half what we're going to be spending in the end with the bank bailout. But people are
here's
screaming.
The deal on the cost. The cost is true. It's $1 trillion roughly for the actually a little less than that because the Senate and House have done a good job cutting back on the expenses, I think. But the truth is that's not new money. For a lot of that, you're going to save somebody else money. So the taxpayers are going to have to pay more, but small business won't have to pay anything. That's a big deal because small businesses generate 80% of all the new jobs in America. So this is a job-generating machine. You're finally taking the foot off the neck of the small businesses in terms of their health insurance costs and reducing them to zero.
Well, how will the small businesses be
affected?
Because
if you have an employer-based system for right now, you have to maintain the employer-based system. If your employees have health insurance, you can't get out of that and dump them into the government system all of a sudden under this bill. But if you're a small business with a small number of employees, you don't have any responsibility anymore for your employees. The government and the employee themselves will pay to get into either private or public insurance, depending on what you choose. That's really important because small businesses really struggle, and they do generate most of the jobs.
Now, you talked about the rest of the developed world. When it comes to the quality of care, we get a media drumbeat that the quality of care is better here than it is in the rest of the world. And if we go for that kind of a national program, they love to use the word socialized, we'll get less good care.
But we've had socialized medicine in America since 1965. It's called Medicare, and everybody over 65 has it. So this idea that, socialized medicine or single payer or any of that stuff is a dreadful anathema that's only found in communist countries. I mean, that kind of rhetoric disappeared after Medicare came in because most people like Medicare.
Well, I wish that kind of rhetoric disappeared.
Well, nobody takes it seriously anymore.
I hope.
These are these people who are so against socialism, they all have socialized medicine. Every one of the politicians that's screaming and shouting about socialized medicine has it themselves. They go downstairs, they see a doctor in the Capitol, and they don't get a bill. It's a pretty good deal, right? We should all be so lucky to have that kind of socialized medicine. The truth of the matter is that, and the reason I wrote this is a really comprehensive book that's easy to read. And most healthcare policy makes your eyes glaze over because it's incredibly complicated. There's a chapter in this book, which is actually that particular chapter was written by two really bright guys from Center for American Progress, which shows you what other countries do and how it works. Other countries' systems are better than ours. They cover everybody, and the healthcare is very good.
We should say the new book that Howard's talking about is Howard Dean's Prescription for Real Healthcare Reform. It is just out. You'll be able to get more information about it at our website. You go through a series of myths, and they're the myths that we're addressing right now. One of them has to do with the threat to private insurers, and you make a very good point towards the end of the book where you say, why are we worried about the threat to private insurers?
Well, right. The private insurance companies are right down there with bankers in the popularity polls right now because they've treated the American public terribly. This attack on socialized medicine and government programs and all this stuff from the right did work 15 years ago when President Clinton tried to do this. The reason it doesn't work now is because people hate insurance companies because the insurance companies deserve it. They have really treated their clients, their patients, their customers like dirt, and doctors. So most doctors now in primary care are for a single payer. Now this isn't a classic single payer. This gives you a choice. You can enroll in a single payer or you can keep your private health insurance. And most people will probably keep their private health insurance. But the president points out that if you give people a choice, people can walk away from the horrible anti-consumer practices of the insurance industry and sign up for something that follows you everywhere you go, is guaranteed never to leave you. And that's a pretty good deal.